Hi, thank you so much for joining for this amazing foundation video I'm about to show. Because it's for the second time, so I should be able to get it just right. I filmed it and realized there's a fan on the background. It was so loud, it was really annoying me, and I'm like, no, we're gonna redo that. So, huge dedication right here. My name is Charity Lambert. I am a makeup artist. I work exclusively with LimeLife by Alcone products because they are the best. I don't want to bore you with all those specifics. I do want to tell you that I am pretty picky about my foundation, and I've always loved it after the first few times of figuring out how to properly apply it. So hopefully this is going to cover all the questions you may have. Maybe you haven't even tried it yet and you're just getting ready to get all the info because it's on its way. Or maybe you tried it on 1 or 2 times and you're like, what is going on? People rave about it. She said it was amazing and it's not amazing. So I'm hoping that my 2 years of practicing solidly with this product, I have developed enough tips and tricks that I'm going to make you absolutely fall deeply in love with it. I did post a video probably a year ago, and though that method is still pretty much going to be mentioned in here in small amount, I have really upped my game. I've had clients in my studio. I've just used it through all the seasons. I've had anything from too much sun to not enough sun. The winters dried me out. I just have been through it all. I really have. And so it makes it really awesome because I can tell you pretty much anything you don't want to do. And when you learn about that, you will never have to worry about having a bad foundation day in your life again. So please prepare yourself for this very educational video, and we will jump right in. Okay, welcome back to my very red face from taking all my makeup off. So we're gonna talk through this, and I'm just gonna be throwing on a little bit of our Perfect Sunscreen, even though I will not be going anywhere. It is right here, and I took off my makeup, and it is really hydrating and moisturizing. They're the same word. Let's start that again. It is really hydrating and has anti-aging ingredients in it. It is a great primer, and it was one of the things I was going to mention anyways. It is quite a good replacement for lotion in a pinch if you happen to skip that step. And the thing is, it's made of zinc, so a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to turn your face white. But it's a different kind of zinc where it does not. They've managed to do some sort of voodoo, and it actually blends right into your skin. So I wanted to show you guys that. Does it block pores, you ask? Nope. It's not supposed to. It's not comedogenic. I did check out the ingredients. But there's always somebody that's gonna react to something out there. That is just the way it is. Okay, so let's get to part 2. So say you did put on your skincare and you were ready for the foundation, you showed up to this moment. You tried on the foundation, it was cakey, separated, showed your pores, looked too powdery. All those things can happen if you don't properly prep your skin. Prep is probably the most important part of any good foundation application, especially if in the winter you are somewhere where it's really dry. You're gonna wanna really make sure you match the time of year with the amount of care and special attention you put into prepping your face. So I did that. If you did your makeup 5 hours ago, you're gonna wanna reapply more moisture before you do the foundation. Foundation is made of plant seed oils and waxes. They are wonderful ingredients that are not harmful to your skin. They won't plug your pores up, but they, in essence, when they have wonderful stuff underneath, will protect them. They'll hold it in, it's breathable, but it will provide some nutrition to your skin. It's shocking. Some foundations don't normally do that, but this does. And it will, when you have your good hydration underneath, it will seal it. So it's really good to make sure you properly set your skin up, because if it doesn't have anything underneath there, it doesn't have something to interact with, interface with, to connect with and do what it's supposed to do. That's just the way it is. So you move on to step number 2, which is, I always recommend this, even if you have oily skin, that's the only time I'd say maybe skip this step, because you already have good hydration, well, good oil-based hydration in your skin as a rule. Otherwise, this is what I do. And I have fairly dry skin. I do take really good care of it, so it behaves as if it's normal right now. But I like to take rose water. This is the Love and Rose brand. I love it so much. It smells amazing. It's a very clean product. I'll put it in the description. So if anyone has really not awesome rose water out there and you want to try it, you can find it. So I take 3 spritzes of it into my hand, and then I put 2 drops of 1 Drop Wonder. I can't get enough of that stuff. I will put it on all the time if I can. So basically, 1 Drop Wonder is the lightest of the oils. It behaves like a serum. There's a million things it does, and this is not supposed to be that kind of video, but I'm gonna tell you because there's gonna be those people out there that are like, oh, but I shouldn't be using it because I have really oily skin. Well, it works for all skin types. I can't even stress enough about this guy. It heals your skin. It's anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial, anti all the things, has antioxidants in it. It is just a game changer. I use it a lot. So I set my skin up with that guy right away because the foundation has something to spread evenly on, and you might think, will it slip around? No, it will not. The only thing that's going to make the foundation slip around is if you use a silicone-based product underneath, whether that be your lotion that has something in it or a silicone-based primer. So avoid. Do not use those because you will regret it. It will slide around, it will not be happy. In fact, I can't actually predict what other skincare would do with the foundation because I have never used anything else with it. But if you're having trouble with it and you try all the things I've mentioned, but you're not on our skincare, it could be something in the formulation that you are using. So you might want to consider switching. And if you need a beauty guide is what LimeLife calls their representatives. So you can definitely consult with me. I spend a great deal of time going over things. I am quite a nice mix of scientist and artist, which is kind of weird. Most people don't have that. Most people are one or the other, but back in the day, I just decided I guess I was gonna be both. I went into a Bachelor of Science and I did take makeup artistry. So I really do have both in there. So, okay, so once you've got that on and you let it doesn't have to sit for too long. At that point, you can use your first base priming spray. Do you need this step if you've done all of that? Not necessarily. If you have large pores, you might still want to do it. This product has things in it that are going to help reduce redness over time. It helps to reduce the appearance of your pores. It helps to give your foundation a base to adhere to. It does, in conjunction with the time setter spray or a setting spray, help to make your makeup more vibrant and last like forever, like 18 hours, long time. It says 16, but I've gone 18. So anyway, so with this guy, you can just spray it all over. It says 4, but I tend to do probably 6. It says to do a T and an X. I don't do that either. I just sort of skip all the rules. But it spreads beautifully all over. So I figure if you're gonna break the rules and it still works, well, is it that bad? So you let that dry for a second. What you can do at that point is, I don't know, it probably does help, but if you want to take a little bit, spray it onto your palette that you have down there. Take an old-fashioned, the classic foundation brush. You can actually put that over top of your pores and just kind of pack it in so you make sure that you really seal over any spots that have the ability for creasing or showing up stuff that you don't want to see. I tend to crinkle my forehead a lot, so I like to put a little extra there as well. And by the way, if you did the face shaving that I did in the last video, and you go and do the SPF plus this, sometimes it's a little, like I can feel it, it's like, ooh. So I generally do the shaving the night before, and then I do all this the next day just because your face is like, what? Anyway, moving into the next step. So you're gonna decide for yourself which person you are. Are you a person that wants light, barely there coverage, medium coverage, all the things coverage? Give me so much coverage that you can't see my skin. There's various ways to go about this, and you have to decide for yourself what day that is for you. And so if it is the lightest version of foundation, which is more BB cream, tinted lotion kind, then you're going to start off with a particular brush that is meant for that, because that is what is the difference with our foundation and other foundations, is you can actually adjust it depending on what kind of coverage you want. And I know other foundation companies say that, they don't actually mean it, because you double up and it just goes south. It's just cakey and weird. And anyway, so the first thing we're gonna do, even before we decide it's BB foundation day, is if you have some redness or things to cover up on your face, maybe a blemish, you're gonna wanna do that first. And so what I do for redness is I take this guy here, which is the #1 concealer from LimeLife by Alcone. It will cover up and cancel any redness so well, you'll just be like, where has this been my whole life? Because you will not have to double up on foundation. You won't have to worry about overdoing it. It really neutralizes it so very well. So that is what I'm gonna use. I get a little redness around here and sometimes my chin a little bit. A lot of women, as they get into their late 30s and 40s, will get little vessels that are showing up there. So you're gonna wanna cancel that out before you put your foundation on. You can go right into it. This is brush number 8, and you can just sorta cancel out any of those spots. You wanna do this before your foundation because it doesn't go perfectly skin colored. I mean, if you have really red skin, sometimes it does cancel to the point where it looks tan. I have clients that do that, but it will be covered up very nicely by your foundation next. Now, if you have rosacea, or sorry, if I did have a spot there, it's going away. I forgot my face wash for a week when I went and stayed at another house that I live at. I live in 2 places. Don't forget your cleanser ever, because it does matter. Yeah, I ended up having a breakout, and it was probably the first time in, gosh, I don't know, 6 months? It's been a while. Okay, so now if you have rosacea, you can use 2 brushes because you're gonna have a bit of an area to cover, right? So I would recommend either of these brushes, and they're 19 and 5. So this one works really well. You can swirl it in there and you can just kind of just paint it on like that. And I have enough pink in my skin, you're gonna really see a shift happen. And especially when I get hot and I took off my makeup. You can go right into it. It seems to work just beautifully. The only time I'd recommend not going straight into it is if you are in a place where it's really cold. If your room is really cold, you're gonna wanna warm this up with a blow dryer or scooping it out and rubbing it really fast with a spatula onto a plate so that it really warms up the formula. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that soon. That is actually the best way to do it, makeup artists would say. People that are at home, busy people, they don't want to do that. But if you're one of those people that's like, I want to know the best method, that's going to be your best method. So we'll talk about that. To show you, buffer brush, it can really buff it into your skin nicely. Does the work. There's another option, which is this guy, which if you were to invest in one first, I'd probably pick this if you don't have it, because number 19, because you'll use it for a lot of things. You can go straight into it as well. It is synthetic, so they really just work so good with creams and powders. There's not a lot of guesswork to it. It doesn't go gummy. It's just really high quality brushes. They are weighted, so when they sit in your hand, they are heavy on the end and at the start. So they're not this light flopping around brush like most brushes are. They actually put a lot of thought into it. And so now that I've got myself pretty canceled, if you are one of those people that foundation just wears off your nose, even with time setter spray at the end, which it shouldn't, it should neutralize it, and even with a mask, it shouldn't really rub off too much, put concealer on your nose. It will adhere a little bit more, and I think it just provides a bit more protection from that. There's always somebody that, there's some people that defy the odds in all the ways. So I'm going to tell you these things so that you know exactly what you're doing. Now, if you're one of those people, you're like, oh my goodness, I just wanted a short video. I apologize. That's not how I roll. Because if you want to teach somebody a real lesson in anything, if you came to my studio, we would not sit down for 10 minutes. We would go through a lot of things and do it properly. I believe in doing things properly. So my videos will probably over time be a little bit more in depth and share things in different perspectives in different ways than you might get from a really quick video. And if those are your jam, that's totally fine. You can go find them. There's a lot of them. If you want the details. If you're that detail person, then I am your girl. Okay, so shifting on, we're gonna do the under eye after. I won't spend a lot of time on that because I have a video posted on the secret to applying the concealer. So getting back on track, you wanted a BB cream style foundation. So you're gonna use either 17 or brush number 1. Of course, all these are LimeLife brushes. 1 will make it very light. 17 is a nightmare if you have dry skin and flakes hanging around. If you do have flaky skin, and I meant to say this, and I did say it in the video that I did before, you wanna make sure you are exfoliating your dry flakes away. If you're super duper sensitive and exfoliation is not an option, and you wanna just do a cloth to kind of get rid of the flakes, you can do that. Also, in your preparations, you might wanna use just a little bit more oil so that it really helps to hold down the flakes. But you don't wanna use this brush because when you do that, it's really gonna work the flakes up. So if you have normal skin, oily skin, this guy is gonna be just fine for you. But if you do have the skin issues with dryness, this might be your guy. So I'm gonna start off with this one. I'm going to go into my Perfect Complexion pack, and I'm gonna teach you the little variant that tends to work for most people. If they are extremely dry and their pores are misbehaving, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take 1 drop Wonder. You can use Due Date if your skin can handle it and you don't break out from it. Some people, though I don't know why, because all the ingredients are non-comedogenic, I've checked it out. I don't know why some people still break out with it. Maybe you're sensitive to essential oils, it's hard to say. 1 drop Wonder has 1 ingredient, it's really light, and it is well received by all skin types from my experience. So you're gonna wanna take your brush, and you can kind of dab into it, just to kind of like initiate it. Go into the foundation like that. And once the oil's in there, it just seems like you don't have to do it too many times, and if your skin really sucks it up, you'll have to do it again. So I'm just gonna add a worst case scenario in, just because I thought of it now. And so what I did, so I took a little bit of my foundation right here, just like onto my, more than that, obviously. I spread it out all across my little tray here. You can use the back of this as well. I do that sometimes depending. And then I just took a little tap of my 1 drop Wonder, like on the side. Like basically, you don't need too much. And I kind of folded that in to the foundation, and I just kind of smear it like that. And if you are super dry and you need to get through like maybe a dry spell and it's gonna get better, when you do break it down with a little bit of oil, and I did the same with my concealer there because I do have to cancel out some red sometimes, it will cause it to break up a little bit more like a BB cream, and when you apply it, you just won't have as much dryness if that's something you're suffering with and the other tips aren't really working for you yet, because you might just be that dry. So try that, and that's like my worst case scenario. It tends to work. Basically for this, you're gonna just kind of go in like that. And this is great. I really do. I go to this sometimes when my skin is just not sure what it wants and I just want the lightest coverage, because you don't need much. Like I said, not much. The point is just like literally kind of buffing and blending a little bit of your age spots. Maybe you don't have a lot of breakouts. If you have a lot of breakouts and you have a lot of area to cover, you're gonna use that green concealer over that area first. So you can kind of see the difference it made already, just doing this really light foundation coverage. Would it work with all brushes? I don't think so. If it's an animal haired one, it's gonna get gunky. Again, synthetic is the way to go, and it's really fluffy, so it really does deposit the least amount. So now if you are gonna take a step up from that, you don't have dry skin, this is probably your faster method. It really does buff it in. I would say it's very comparable. The only problem is sometimes this will give you a bit of streaks if it's a certain time of the year. In the summer, I find I have a little bit of trouble with it. I go to the other brush. In the winter, it seems to be less of an issue as long as the environment is not cold, like I mentioned. So you just wanna go in, and you can really do this a lot quicker, but you're gonna do like little swirls. Now, if you're going along and you see a little bit of a streak, you're just gonna, wherever that streak was, you just kind of go like this, over top. And so say you put on a whole layer and you're feeling like there's an area that needs a little bit of extra love, you can go in and just add where you need to. You don't need to add too much everywhere and then add the whole face back in. You can really just touch it up to where it needs to. It will look just fine. Okay, so then we're gonna move up from there and we're gonna go to more of a medium coverage to full coverage. I can do medium to full with this guy. This is brush number 18 from LimeLife. It is a little bit shorter, a little bit denser, a duo fiber. Again, I would put the oil in if I needed it, if it was one of those days. You can take a scoop of foundation, put it on your palette, and use a little spatula with a little bit of oil and blend it in that way. That's often something that works for a lot of people that are branching into LimeLife foundation that don't have great skincare yet. I feel like they have to oil down their foundation a bit because there's plant seed oils and waxes already in it. It's compatible. It doesn't separate the formula, it just dilutes it, and it helps your skin to receive it because there's the extra hydration in there. So that is an option. If you've kind of shifted out of that range, and I was that person, by the way, so that's why I know it works, you can get to the point where you can just put a few drops in there, prime your brush with the oil, and then you can kind of go in. So for this guy, and I think I mentioned this in my last video, this might have been one you have seen. If you haven't, don't worry about it because this is way more updated by this point, but you just basically want to take and push like that, just like that. And so lots of little mini pats all over until you're basically done your whole face. So I do this often on my clients, and it's just an easier method for me to do for most skin types. If you have dry skin, it's still, because you're pressing it, it works. It does deposit a little more, so if you want more coverage, it's your guy. Then there's the last method, and this one is pretty much, depends on the time of year for me. It is using your Blenderful sponge. A lot of people use this damp, and I think I've talked about it in a video before, maybe not. I do a lot on Facebook, so sometimes I get mixed up. I used to wet it, use it. Don't always love that way, and it works with a lot of other foundations, but I find with our formula, I just sometimes have more problems than not. Probably because water and oil, or water and wax, don't necessarily work perfectly together in some cases. So depending if it's too wet, I don't know. I have sometimes issues I don't like. So what I do is I use the rose water again, and I basically will wet the Blenderful, a couple of spritzes, about 3. You can also spray your palette down below with the rose water and dip it in if you don't want it in the air. And then you just basically go in. And you're just going to push that into your skin like so. So it is damp-ish. It's not quite as damp as it would have been if you had run it under the tap. And again, if it's feeling wet, you're gonna wanna put it onto a paper towel just to get rid of the moisture, because it should really just be like, I don't know, spritzed. Aware there's water in there, but you can't feel it too much. I've really gotten into this rose water in a big way. It works so well with our products. I really want LimeLife to carry a good quality rose water because I can't get enough of it. So just gonna dip back into the rose water. Sometimes I actually spray the rose water and One Drop Wonder together and go in. I'm all about what works for when, because honestly, it depends on the time of year, what your skin's doing. Have you drank a lot of water? Have you, I don't know, are you in a place where the humidity is really down and you've been in your house and it's just sucking you dry? There's so many reasons why foundation can suddenly not work properly. But I do know that LimeLife foundation, because of the way that it is, in the fact that it's a wax-based, first of all, it gets better as time goes on. So in an hour, as it settles to your skin, because the wax really warms up, it's going to really mold to you. And again, don't be worried if it's gonna break you out. I know a lot of people have this concern, wax breakout. It doesn't really work that way, at least from my research. There's going to be one of everybody that has that issue though, but for the most part, I find from all my reading, the waxes that they use are beneficial to the skin. Some of them actually provide nutrients. They will hold your skincare moisture in. They shouldn't block pores. They're 0 and 1 on the comedogenic scale. I really did my research on it. It doesn't have a ton of products. It has high pigment. So it is really not gonna be an offensive product for people that are used to breakouts, or people that have very sensitive skin too. It doesn't have fragrances in it. I find it's just, if you can't wear foundation, you're probably gonna be able to get away with ours. Is there somebody out there that's gonna say, I wasn't one of them, it didn't work for me? There's gonna be those people too. And but I'm a makeup artist. I've worked with so many skin types, and I have to say this has been the best one so far. So moving into concealing the under eye. Okay, so once you have the foundation on, you just wanna make sure everything looks nice and set. Really pleased with it. Yes, you do wanna bring it down onto your neck. I did that earlier, so I won't do that because I do have foundation down to about here, because I have a very light underneath there area. So you wanna make sure it merges together if you wanna do it properly. For the under eye, I'm just going to very quickly do that. I tend to do it last because I like for it to merge onto the highlight zone. 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't like that term because I am a vegetarian, vegan, right, 80% vegan. I do indulgent cheese. It's so hard to give that one up. Anyway, so I didn't like that term, but you get what I'm saying. So basically I like to mix concealer number 3 and number 0 because the number 2 is a little bit too yellow for me. I don't have a lot of purple under my eyes anymore. The iRise gel has gotten rid of that, so it just looks a little bit yellow on me. So if I mix these 2 together, it tends to be very good results. And so I'm just gonna put this on. If you want to know more about how I apply this concealer, you're gonna want to just go watch that video, but I'm going to fast forward to the part where we get to setting this, okay? So now I have my under eye done. And at this point, if you're going to do some cream contouring, which I'm gonna save that for another video, you would do that, obviously. If you are gonna go in with powders, at this point, you just go right in with the powders. So the first thing you're gonna do is want to set this, unless you're super duper duper dry. I'm talking dry as bones dry. You could use the Time Setter spray to set it, and then you could just get on with your day. It will set to your skin eventually. It is a unique foundation that way, but if you have good moisture in your skin, you're normal to oily, you will want to set it because it's just going to be a little too dewy. It is beautiful dewy when set, but you're just going to be a little bit happier that you did set it in the meantime. The thing is you don't want to overset it, and that's where some people go wrong, is they use too much powder or the wrong brush. I like to use brush number 1 by LimeLife, and I'm going to show you the method of applying the powder. Like literally 1 pat. So see how much powder I have there? I pounce it off, and then you just want to press it. And I always start somewhere where there's going to be more oil. So if I go in, chin out, so that this area over here that's a little bit drier is getting a little bit less. You don't want to rub, you don't want to go like that, because you're going to start to separate the formula on your face before it has a chance to really mold to your skin. So you don't need much. You really have to look in the mirror and ask yourself if you need more. Don't apply too much, because sometimes it gives you the effect of caking. Even though the foundation's not caking, what's happened is you have too much powder on top. So it can just, it tricks you into thinking all kinds of bad things. Now, if you are one of those people that has really oily skin, you might want to invest in the HD color powder. It is very blurring. I use it in the summer when the moisture is up. It really helps my pores to look extra like porcelain smooth. In the winter, sometimes it absorbs a little too much oil, and I find it's not the best option. If you're somewhere where there is a lot of hydration in the air, it might be fine for you, and I'm just gonna mention it real quickly. It deserves its own video, but just so you guys know in case that's you, this is the light one. This is the one I would use. I would use a dry blender full, and then I would just push it into the areas that need the extra blurring. So for me, that would be here. Can you use it all over your foundation? Absolutely. It is a little bit of a full coverage plus sort of look, so I don't tend to do it as often. And so after that's done, you're just going to apply your blushes. But you're gonna wanna make sure when you do your blush that you don't swirl the blush on. When you apply your blush, you're gonna make sure, and I'm just gonna show you really quickly because it does make a difference. Sometimes before the powder has been set with the Time Setter spray, and you put blush on and you kind of like fan it out, it does something weird to the powder. It just fluffs it up in a weird way. But if you do it this way, it's perfect. So I kind of just push it in, start at the apples of my cheeks and kind of work my way out. Like that way. And now if I do a bit of a darker blush, I would probably start out here and I go in. This is, I think, blush number 1. It is blush number 1 or 3. I'll have to put it into the notes, the description part. So basically I just keep tapping it in like that. Everything that you apply on top of the foundation, you're gonna wanna make sure you're really doing this. If there's anything you take away from this lesson, it is that you pat everything on, just because that's the way it needs to be. It will always turn out much nicer than the rubbing. The rubbing really gets everybody in trouble. It does a lot of things it shouldn't. And at this point, I would, even do bronzer. Normally I throw some bronzer on just to add a bit of color to my face because it's cold Canada right now, and yeah, I need to make sure that I'm getting color from somewhere, otherwise I look pretty pale. But I'm gonna cut us off there. I will set the foundation with the time setter spray. If you're normal to dry, that's your guide. And if you're normal, if you're normal to oily or it's summer, you wanna do the oil strike setting spray. The setting spray will set it all. It'll mold it to your skin. You'll be very happy to have it because it just finishes it off in a way I can't explain. It will last longer, absolutely. I can't stress that enough. If you have tried all these things but you didn't try the spray yet, that's gonna be your last line of defense. I think actually your last line of defense is to email me and say, I am having this problem. I love to troubleshoot things, so I would be happy to figure out what might be going wrong for you. If you have a beauty guide already, you might want to deal with her just because I don't want to step on anyone's toes that way. But if you are free spirit or she's not working anymore, you're more than welcome to inbox me and I can help take care of you. So I think that's all for now. If I forgot anything, I'm going to do a quick follow-up tips video, and I hope to be on here a little bit more often because I have a lot to share. It's been an eventful couple of years for me. I've learned a lot of things from trial and error. And again, like, I love to troubleshoot, so I want to be able to share a lot of that with you guys. So thank you guys so much for staying for this long, drawn out video. But I do hope that you will now know exactly what to do with your foundation in any season. When anything happens, you'll be prepared. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you in the next video.